So let's talk about us installing the Apache web server. Now for this, we're just going to go through and install Apache, and then we are going to look real briefly at the basic config files of the Apache web server. All right, so I've already got my system up here, and you can see by my prompt here, I'm in root mode. So if you don't do that, then you have to sudo the commands. So I'm going to install Apache, and Apache, the package name is actually Apache 2. So it's apt install Apache 2. You have to make sure you have access to the internet when you do this. And it's going to install a bunch of additional packages. And we're going to say, yeah, we're good with that. And then it's going to run through and do its install real quick. Now, while we're doing this, Apache is probably one of the most well-known and well-used web servers, or widely used web servers on the internet. There are a handful of others as well, but Apache is one that is very common. So if you're going to be hosting a web server on Linux, which is great because you don't have to pay licensing fees like you do with Microsoft OSs, Apache is a great option for you. All right, so we've installed it. Let's see if it's running. So it's systemctl status Apache 2. And we should see that our service is active and running. Okay, now it's saying there's a notification here, and you can't see the whole thing. It kind of falls off the edge of my Zoom screen here. But it's the web server could not reliably determine the fully qualified domain name. Now we're just doing a simple demo here, so that's not a big deal. But if you're doing an actual web server, that is something that you want to make sure that you have resolved. Okay, so we have that up. Now our files, our web hosting files, our files for our websites, are going to be in the var www.html folder by default. So we'll do ls-l /var /www/html. And this is the default site. In fact, at this point, the Apache server is up and running. So if I were to open up a web browser on another computer and point it to this web server, I would get this index.html file. Now, Apache comes pre-configured to serve one site, a default site, and it comes preloaded with a sample file. Now, if you're only using one site, then all you really have to do is put your site in this var www.html folder, and you're good. That's pretty much it. As long as you're serving index.html or another default file, you're ready to go. And Apache is ready to serve it. Now, if you want to be a little more extreme, there are some other fun things you can do. Apache can serve multiple sites, and we can add modules, and we'll look at a couple of those things. But let's start by looking at the Apache config file. So that's going to be in the /etc/apache2/apache2.conf file. And this is the default configuration file. And this is another one of those that I probably wouldn't modify. I'd probably make a backup copy of it because as you can see here as we scroll through, there is actually a fair amount of decent documentation here. Your actual configs, and all this is commented out. Here's where we start running into actual configurations. Kind of the same as a bunch of other applications we've looked at. Okay, so this is the configuration file for Apache. I'm going to Control X to exit out of here. I've got one more that we need to look at, and that is nano /etc/apache2/sites available / and this is where we define our individual sites 000-default.conf, and this is the config file for our default site. And you'll notice here virtual host *:80. We're listening for everything on port 80. We have a server admin and then a document root, and this is where our files are going to be stored. If we're running multiple websites, then what we probably want to do, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can do it by site name or by IP address. But you can assign the device multiple IP addresses, typically off of multiple network cards. And you can specify a virtual host with a specific IP address here, and then down here in the document root, you can change where those files are actually located, and then Apache can serve multiple things at the same time. Okay, so that is type the command correctly. That is installing Apache, really straightforward, really easy, and looking at some basic configurations. Now, in next video, we're going to take a look at how to install additional Apache modules to give your web server more functionality.